Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I've got a terrifying lineup of subscriber encounters, and we're going to step into William's realm of reality again. He's going to answer some questions that you guys have shot out to us, and his responses are, well, you'll see. Before we get into today's upload, a couple links I'd like to share. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch to help this channel to continue to grow and go. All of those links are in the description below. I also have a second channel for creepypasta, fanfiction, and scary voice acting. Stories that really don't fit on this channel. Now, if that's anything you're into, follow that link and give those stories a listen. You may just like what you hear. I also started a GoFundMe page to help raise money to get my daughter's school tuition set. Today I almost didn't record. I had another meeting with the superintendent and assistant superintendent in regards to this whole tuition BS. These people are idiotic in a way. And more challenging than dealing with the legal system of getting my daughter and full custody. Anyway, if that is anything that you are willing to help with, help keeping her in the school that she has gone to since kindergarten, and literally 0.4 miles difference in schools, that GoFundMe link is in the description as well. I want to thank everybody who has generously donated. Thank you so much. It means the world to me. My daughter is my everything, and anything that makes her happy makes me 10 times more happier. So thanks, guys, and I've taken enough of your time. Let's get on with today's upload, shall we? Hey Jeff, how's it going? I'd like to start off by saying my encounter happened 12 or so years ago, and I don't necessarily believe it was a Dogman instead of Sasquatch. I was 15 or 16 at the time. During my spring breaks, I would go turkey hunting with my dad and a handful of others he had met through the years in the Ozarks, to set up camp before each of us would go our separate ways every morning. I'll be honest, I never really took note of the particular day or where we'd be hunting, being a teenager that just loved the hunt and was along for the ride with my dad. I remember the local name of the mountain, but that, as well as my own name, I'd like to leave anonymous, since we still hunt there from time to time. We had been hunting a few days and had woken up on this particularly spring morning, as usual, around 3 a.m. I'd gotten dressed first and was stepping out of the camper door to walk the 10 yards or so to my great-uncle's camper, as we did for breakfast and general small talk before the long hike up the mountain for the hunt of the day. As soon as I stepped down onto the 2x4 box we had made to shorten the distance from the last step to the ground, I instantly was startled by this something or somebody is here feeling. I've encountered quite a few bears at close range before, but I felt like it was something much larger. I turned to look to my right, and that's when I, for the most part, saw it. Granted, it was still dark, but we would always keep minimal light going in the camper to mostly preserve our night vision. But there it was. It was a massive black form next to the tree we hung our trash from, 10 yards or so from the door. I saw it at the same time it saw me. At first I thought it was a big bear until it stood up. A black bear will rarely stand over 6 feet my height, but I was on a rough 6-inch step, and this thing still towered over me. It let out a few quick grunts, the best I can describe him as ape-like, definitely not a bear. I've heard the grunts a bear makes, particularly a sow with cubs nearby, and this thing made a sound much deeper and longer. We stared at each other for what seemed like minutes, but in reality it was only a few seconds before it bolted up the ridge by camp. My dad had walked out by then, and we could both hear this thing tearing up all the plant life in its path for the least a quarter of a mile before the sound died down. After we could hear it no more, my dad turned to me and whispered, "What the hell was that?" To which my only response was, "I don't know, it must have been a big-ass bear." And for several years we simply left it at that, even though I knew the outline was much too big to be a black bear and the sounds were off. A few months ago I came clean with the details of what I had seen to my dad, and he asked his buddies we had hunted with so many times before if they could guess what it was. One of the older hunters simply told him, "Tell your boy, welcome to the club." It turns out he had multiple encounters hunting in the Ozarks his 50-plus years, and happens to find it funny when somebody has their first encounter. He's reported his sightings and have been interviewed by the BFRO. To this day, I am still not entirely sure what I saw. I still want to think it was a gigantic bear that had ran off on 2 legs after I spooked it. But I just can't convince myself of that story anymore. I still love the woods and will go on a hunt at the drop of a hat. But I always keep that image in the back of my mind and remind myself to never get too comfortable. Today's second subscriber encounter. Hey Jeff, I have a couple of stories that have happened to me and my boyfriend. One time when we were looking for arrowheads and we went at night, something was throwing little pebbles at us. The pebbles would land right in front of our heads as we were bent over looking into the water. That takes some precision and intelligence to do. We were there for hours and it happened many times. And at first I wasn't even sure if it was happening. I would hear it, can see the water move in front of me, but it didn't really register until 5 times. And I was like, okay, what the heck? My first thought was my boyfriend was doing it. And he said no, it was happening to him as well. And so something intelligent was there throwing little pebbles right in front of our heads, not hitting us, but messing with us. That takes some intelligence. The terrain surrounding us was very remote. There are few houses around, but there's lots of woods. And it's out in the country where anything could hide if it wanted to be hidden. And there is also a known Indian burial mound close to the spot. Now, I'm just giving you slight details about all of my stories. If you want to know more, I will write them out for you and give them to you properly. Like the other night, my boyfriend was out and about, and he heard something like he had never heard before. Howl, like I don't know what it sounded like because I wasn't there. He said the coyotes just went crazy, so I don't know what that was, but it sounded like a Dogman to me, as what he described the howl sounded like. He another time saw something in a little patch of woods at night, in the middle of this town. I mean, not even a town, it's a city, and when he saw it, he immediately picked up a stick and started kind of sharpening it against a tree for protection. It had an elongated snout. It looked emaciated, and when it saw him, his son, and him, it took off, running on 4 legs. And then it stood up and started running on 2 legs. As it was running, he said he saw tracks in the snow like he had never seen before. These tracks were not of anything he had ever seen and couldn't even place them with something possibly known to exist. And there is another time when I was by myself. I was out at the end of this trail in the same patch of woods, and my boyfriend had dropped me off and took his dirt bike up to the top, and I could hear the dirt bike at the top of the trail. And that's a little ways off, so I know he wouldn't be able to hear me. And I heard chains or something and started walking up the trail toward it, thinking it was person. I guess I forgot to say it's dark out, like 9 p.m. on a summer night. sun has gone down, it's dark enough that you really can't see anything off to the far. So I start walking toward it, and I said hello, and all of a sudden it starts on two legs running up the side of the hill, and I could hear the chains rattling. Maybe they were hanging off the side of his belt or something, I don't know. I couldn't see a belt, couldn't even see the chains. I could hardly see and make out the figure, and then turns directly towards me and starts running towards me. And it begins morphing into a dog-like creature, looked like a German shepherd to me. As far as I could tell, and the whole time, it had this real pale green glow about it. And at first, it looked like a person going up the side of the hill, but then it turned toward me and morphed into this ghost dog. That's what I call it now. It went down on four legs and just ran at me. I know it sounds crazy, it was definitely weird, and I can't explain it any better than that. So I turn around without even trying to comprehend what I'm looking at, and I yell help. And I ran up the other way and ended up going up another trail. That is, just not really a trail you would want to go, especially in the dark. I had no flashlight. It's just not easy as steep. It's a climb, but I didn't care. I just kept going and didn't look back. Anyway, I just wanted to give you some ideas of some of the stories I have that I have been through, and let me know if you're interested. Today's third part of the upload is a little more info from William. Now he's been reading the comment section and he is answering some questions for us. Good morning, Jeff. Here are some common differences that your viewers are asking about. Shapeshifters are your skinwalkers, and in 35 years now, I have never had to track one down. So I'm not able to tell you much, if anything, about them. I could ask other agents about them as I hear them tell of having to try to track them down. A Dogman visibly has a snout and weighs in at maybe tops 220 pounds, and close to 6'8". Can travel on its hind legs, but prefers to run on all fours. It was started in its breeding program in 1954 as a smaller and hopefully faster creature, but it could not match the strength and the running ability of its other player. They were much more widely bred than the werewolves, and at the end of 2008, there was something like 35,000 released into the mountainous regions of the United States. From there, they were bred within each other and bred with wild ones. There is no way to know their numbers today, but they are seen in every state of the lower 48 and Alaska, also in Canada. I have in my 35 years taken out about 650 just guessing, and there are 12 agents. Some are just nuisance, some are attacks, and some have killed people and farm animals. Now on to the werewolf. This is my specialty. The werewolf is flat-faced, does not change from human to beast. It is larger, stronger, faster, and a whole lot meaner than the Dogman ever hoped to be. Its tracks are like that of a human, with nail prints at the end of the toes. The Dogman tracks are canine in appearance, but you can tell it appears to be walking on tippy toes. The werewolf will stand between 7 feet, and the largest I have ever encountered was 8'7". The weight between 350 pounds to 470. Both have claws on their hands and feet. Dogman has larger claws on its feet, and its snout makes it easier to bite. The werewolf's hands has larger claws and rips with them more freely, and his bite is more directed for the neck of the victim. The werewolf is a killing machine. Most people attacked by one will not walk away. This is the basic difference between the three. Everyone knows what a Bigfoot is, and I have had my fair share of trouble with them, but that's later down the road. Also, the breeding program for the werewolf started in 1952 and ended in 2008. There was 22,620 bred and released all across the lower 48 states in 2008. The life expectancy of a dogman is 66 years and a werewolf is 68. The reason I say this, their two original breeding stock is still alive in captivity and look like they are none the worse for wear from when I saw them 35 years ago. Tonight's second question to William was from me in regards to the November attack that happened in Texas that was blamed on the wild boar population. Good afternoon, Jeff. That was not my case either, but I remember that it happened right after Thanksgiving. I saw the file on it, and we were all interested because it was a newbie that was sent to deal with this case, his first case. His name is R, and he's getting better. So I'm going mostly on memory here. He arrived on the scene and her body had been taken away. He told all the local law enforcement there who he was. First mistake, but they were kind to him and polite to him. Then he found his counterparts, the FBI, who had asked for his assistance. He looked over the scene and realized there was hog tracks mixed with canine tracks. And he overheard the locals talking that the dogs must have ran the feral hogs off. So his next stop was the morgue. But they wouldn't let him see the body because he didn't present himself in the right manner. Second mistake. So he calls the FBI and they go to the morgue and make it so he can view the body. All of the marks on the body are bite wounds, like a pig had started to eat the body. But the neck and the head wounds were slash wounds and had almost removed the head. The pigs were probably drawn to the smell of the blood. It was a dogman that had done the original attack. Why it pulled away, I don't know that. It was written up as a hog attack and classified as such. Randy wrote it as a hog attack, third mistake, and returned to Virginia. And I don't think that there was ever been but maybe 10 or 12 hog attacks in history, and most of them are when a hunter only wounds one and it turns on him. He never went into the brush to look further and see if the canine tracks left by themselves. So he would have known it was an individual creature, and he would have known what he was dealing with had he done a better job investigating. But viewing the pictures in the file, we could all tell that by looking at the head wounds, it was from a dogman. But why it left, I can't tell you that. This is about all I can remember without going to the office and pulling and reading the file again. I hope this helps you some. I would say that about 35 to 40% of your animal attacks are not domestic animals at all, and why the government set these creatures free like they did is unheard of. But for the most part, they do hunt on their own and take wild game. I've often wondered if any of this is connected to any of the 411 missing persons. I've been dispatched out on several of them and never even found a track, and I'm considering to be one of the top 3 in the country. I've got to go into the office and type up a report on what happened, and I'm a very slow typist, so I will get that one to you as soon as possible. Alright guys, so now, wow, the more answers I get, the more questions I have, and I'm sure that's the same for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the comment section, and I'm going to make a list of questions that I have and that you guys have, and I am going to ask him questions that seem to have the most want answered. I'm waiting on a large encounter story that he is going to be sending me. I was hoping it would be here today, but I wanted to share this stuff with you guys as well. That way there is some answers to some of the questions. I hope this helps out with a little bit of your questions. I know that answers just make more questions, but that's cryptozoology for you, right? The two encounters, definitely terrifying. To the subscriber that sent the second encounter, please send all of your encounters. I wanted to share just the brief, minor detailed encounters that you had with everybody. So hopefully that will encourage you to send the rest of them. The first encounter, yeah, definitely not a bear. Bears don't run on two legs up a hill. Curious if you would be interested in contacting the hunter friend, and maybe he could share his encounters with you and you could send them to me. That would be amazing. If not, that's cool, and I appreciate you sharing that encounter with us. We are definitely getting some really interesting answers from William, and I am very interested in finding out where this rabbit hole brings us. I want to thank William for reaching out to me. I truly appreciate it. And he actually is very diligent and respectful about answering my emails. So when I say that I'm going to have a list of questions, I'm gonna get them out to him tomorrow, and hopefully he can have them back to me the next day, and we can get a pretty decent upload going and get some of these questions answered that you guys have. But yeah, this is really creepy to know that the government would do this. In 2008, I remember that was kind of around the time when the wildlife people in upstate New York, NCON as we call them, released a whole bunch of wolves up by the Canadian border, actually up by the reservation where my family lives. And the logger who had problems with a dogman or werewolf around his home, and there was a deer carcass like 35 feet in the tree. So like I said, the more answers we get, the more questions we have. I hope you guys liked today's upload, and I want to thank everybody. And with that, I'm going to bid you guys farewell.